over the president's Supreme Court pick, Judge Neil Gorsuch. Democrats are staging a last-minute rally and the continuing drama over that Supreme Court nominee. It all comes in a head-to-head Senate hour. It all comes to a head in the Senate next hour, and we're looking at live pictures right now. At 11 Eastern, Republicans will begin the very first votes on the nuclear option and change the confirmation threshold for Supreme Court nominees from 60 to 51. Then, sometime early this afternoon, the Senate will take the final vote on the nuclear option and end decades of precedent in the Senate. I want to bring in our legal scholar, Elizabeth Wydra, who's president of the Constitutional Accountability Center. And back with me, Wall Street Journal White House reporter Carol Lee and USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page. Thanks to all of you, a power panel of women here. Appreciate you being here. I want to start with you, Elizabeth. Just put this into context. What does it mean that Republicans are prepared to go nuclear, and what type of precedent does it set?
Right. So we've had this 60-vote threshold for justices for the Supreme Court, and that really signifies the consensus that will be behind someone who's going to be put for life tenure on the highest court in the land. They have the final word on the meaning of the law and the Constitution here. So it's a really important job. Right. And the idea that you can get bipartisan support, you can get 60 votes in the Senate, is a vote of confidence that you'll represent the interests of all Americans, not just one particular interest or segment of the population or another. And so breaking that 60-vote threshold for the Supreme Court, for this highest court in the land, is a big deal. And McConnell has been making it seem like he has no choice in this, but he does have a choice if we look back at some of the fights we've had over nominees in the past. For example, a lot of people think of Robert Bork as, this extreme nominee was put forth. He was pulled after it was clear he couldn't get consensus. And then Justice Anthony Kennedy was put forth as the nominee. Clearly someone who is conservative, but on the more moderate side of that. So I think that's what a lot of Democrats, we saw that rally on the Capitol Hill, are pushing for, saying, if there's a problem and you can't get 60 votes, don't change the rules, change the nominee.
And the Republicans are saying, hey, there's so much wrapped up in this opposition. You guys are just upset because President Obama's pick for the Supreme Court, Merrick Garland, didn't get a hearing. I guess the question is, some Republicans are saying, and they tried to threaten Democrats by saying, don't push us to go there because it's just going to mean more ideological Supreme Court justices in the future. Is there merit to that? Is that a real concern?
I think it is a real concern. We have this 60-vote threshold for a reason, to try to get someone who can get consensus, and President Obama's first two nominees got those 60 votes. I think if there had been a normal process, Merrick Garland, who was a consensus pick in the first place, would have gotten those 60 votes. And so the idea of getting rid of this is, frankly, going to hurt Republicans also if we, get in a situation where Democrats control the White House and Congress. So it is a really big move that they're taking here. And it's not just political football. Obviously, there are a lot of hard feelings about what happened to Merrick Garland, which was unprecedented and shameful, but it's also about the substance of this nominee.
And quickly, before we go to these two ladies, could this apply to legislation in the future, or is it really just Supreme Court justices? A lot of people are confused about that.
That is the big concern. Obviously, the legislative filibuster is something that, we think of in pop culture as well as something that's important for getting bills that have consensus and are not extreme pieces of legislation. And a lot of people think that if it goes for the Supreme Court, it's next to go for the legislative filibuster.
Susan, weigh in on the politics of all of this. If Hillary Clinton had won, would we have been in the same exact spot with this real knockdown, drag-out fight?
Well, but maybe if she had done a consensus candidate like Merrick Garland, but of course this reflects, I think, the pressure of the liberal Democrats who are girded for warfare with Donald Trump. There are some concerns, including among Democrats, about whether this is a smart thing to do, whether to force the Republicans, if they want to confirm this nominee, Neil Gorsuch, to blow up the filibuster. And I think only time will tell whether Democrats rue the day this is such a big change. You think conservative Antonin Scalia confirmed with 98 votes in the Senate. Liberal Ruth Bader Ginsburg confirmed with 96 votes in the Senate, and now unable to even get to 60.
Carol, weigh in on that point. A lot of folks are saying the politically smart thing for Democrats would be to try to strike a deal with Republicans and get them to agree to have a 60-vote threshold for the next Supreme Court pick, who's the one who really matters, because this is not going to really change the ideological makeup of the court.
Right. There's several things going on here. One, this is one of those situations where what seems good for the Republicans right now could come back to hurt them in the future. So in that sense, it could be a little bit short-sighted. Two, you have but in the short term, if you look at what the White House is already looking at, the next potential Supreme Court justice, and so that gives the Republicans two if they with this going nuclear option. But this whole process since this vacancy has been open has been something that we haven't really seen before. So you know, this is not very surprising that it would move in a direction that, again, we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and just underscores how divided our politics continue to be. All right, Carol, Susan, and Elizabeth, thank you so much. Great conversation, ladies.